For problem 4, we're told that DJ, for some reason, decides to challenge me in an 800-meter race. We're also told that during that race, both Mr. Doherty and DJ run at a constant speed. They stay the same speed the whole time while they're running. Part A, what we're going to focus on first, is going to say who runs faster. You're asked to explain your answer. And we see to figure that out, DJ's data is in a table. And I've copied some of the data points for the table here on the whiteboard. And then we have written statements for my data for Mr. Doherty's race. So 12 seconds, 60 meters, 15 seconds, 75 meters, so forth. We copied a couple of those data points here. So to figure out who runs faster, we really need to figure out the unit rate for each one. Sure, 60 meters and 100 meters are bigger than any of these, but the times are significantly bigger too, so that doesn't necessarily mean I'm faster than DJ. So if I take a look at, first we'll take a look at mine. We know that 12 seconds in, I went 60 meters. 20 seconds in, I went 100 meters. I'm going to pick this one. They're just numbers that I think are a little easier to divide. So if I set up 100 meters per every 20 seconds, 100 divided by 20 is the same thing really as 10 divided by 2. So that's ultimately going to give us 5 meters every 1 second. So 5 meters every 1 second, that's the same thing if you did 12 seconds times 5 meters, that would get you to if you did 12 seconds times the 5 meters per second, that could get you to the 60 meters. We see that constant speed. And then in DJ's case, the data point I'm going to pick a little easier to work with than 4 and 24. Yeah, 24 divided by 4 would give 6, but I'd see 30 divided by 5. I always like to divide by 5s and 10s when I can. 30 meters every 5 seconds. Tells us that DJ is actually going to be running 30 divided by 5 is the same thing as 6 over 1. DJ is running 6 meters every 1 second. So that can help us answer part A. That can help us recognize as we take a look at part A why, surprisingly, DJ is faster than Mr. Doherty. A good explanation would be 6 meters per second versus 5 meters per second. Now that we know their unit rates, that's also going to be the key thing we need for part B, which asks us how much longer will it take the slower racer to finish the race? Explain your answer or insert an image of your work. So they're saying if you think about when the first racer comes across and the second racer comes across, DJ's of course going to beat Mr. Doherty. How much time will go by, or how much faster will DJ be than Mr. Doherty? We have to go back to our original part and recognize this is an 800-meter race. So if I know it's an 800-meter race, and the question is how many seconds will it take to run 800 meters? So we'll put that whiteboard into full screen now. So we've got an 800-meter race, and we want to know how long it's going to take for them each to run 800 meters. If we set that up as a proportional relationship and we compare that to DJ, who comes in at 6 meters every 1 second. 1 second on the top. So 6 meters on the bottom, 1 second on the top here. And then we could set up cross multiplication and realize ultimately, here's our x. When we cross multiply, it's going to say 6x equals 800. This helps us realize that if we take the 800-meter race and we divide by DJ's unit rate, we divide by DJ's 6 meters per second, 800 divided by 6 equals 133 1/3. So it's going to take DJ 133 1/3 seconds to get there. And then we know for Mr. Doherty, remember we're going to take 800 meters, and this time for Mr. Doherty, we're going to have to divide by his 5 meters per second. And 800 divided by 5 goes into 80, a total of 16 times. So it's going to take Mr. Doherty 160 seconds. It's going to take DJ just a little over 133 1/3 seconds. So if we're going to compare those two answers, we need to be doing Mr. Doherty's time minus DJ's time. And when we do 160 minus 130, that would give us 30. but we need to take 3.3 more away, so that puts us at about 26.7 seconds longer than Mr. Doherty. So as we see, it wasn't really close in this race. If this is the true information, in this race, DJ would be beating Mr. Doherty by quite a bit, by 26 seconds, even more. If you got questions about Part B, that's definitely a little bit tricky in some ways. Feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to Miss Moran or Mr. Chu if you've got additional questions.